Then we'll do a roadmap update. And then as always, we'll do Q&A throughout. Please use the Q&A feature or the chat within the Zoom interface if you have any questions. And as always, if we don't get to all the questions, we'll do our best to address them after the fact in our recap blog post. And we also make this live stream video available via our YouTube channel. So if you're watching via YouTube, hello, and it will be recorded there and available after. So we'll jump right in. If you're on this call, you probably already have a good sense and overview of Reaction Commerce. We are both an open source code base for both full features and functionality for shops and marketplaces. And we also are a managed platform as a service, handling all of your DevOps, orchestration, hosting, SSL, domains. If you're interested in learning more about either, you can go to reactioncommerce.com, fill out the form, and we'd be happy to walk you through a demo or share a demo. We now have a swag shop demo that you can log into to see the full dashboard features and functionality. But that's the high level overview. We're, I think now 18 employees. We're definitely growing. So we'll switch to that in a second. But first up, sorry, I just jumped ahead. The winners of the Hackabugathon. And whoa, here they are. Nothing like live. Wacky Wombat 12. You are the winner of the inaugural Reaction Commerce Hackabugathon. We don't know your name. That's your GitHub profile. So we would love to meet you. So reach out to us. You've won $1,000 for your pull request around the Instagram login problem. So thank you very, very much. Appreciate all the contributions and definitely get in touch. We'd love to profile you on our blog and chat a little bit about you and learn a little bit more, and also make sure you get the lucky prize. And there's a second component to the Hackabugathon, which is kind of a raffle. So in this fun hat is all of the submitted and approved and accepted pull requests that we received during the Hackabugathon. If you submitted multiple, your name is in here twice. And we're going to now do a very scientific, Aaron's going to grab a winner. This is the audience prize. And whoever wins will also get $1,000. And ta-da, the winner, oh, I get to announce. Mm-hmm. This is exciting. And the winner is HRAF 2015 for pull request number 2364. I don't know what that pull request was, but thank you very much, HRAF 2015. You've been a member of the community for a very long time because I
all those Windows issues they paid.
Yeah, this is probably one of the many Windows issues. So thank you both Wacky Wombat 12 and HRAF 2015. Congratulations. Definitely get in touch. We'll be in touch to make sure you get the prize. And those are the winners.
That's a lucky draw.
That's a lucky draw right there. Okay, what's next? Oh, now it's meet the team.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, go back to that. So this is some pictures from our headquarters here in Santa Monica. I just mentioned we're about 18 full-time teammates. We are hiring. You can go to reactioncommerce.com careers. We're growing on all fronts, engineering, sales, marketing. I'd now like to have our newest addition to the team join us up here, Tyson Bennett. Tyson is our lead architect, and he's going to sit right here in the hot seat.
In the hot seat. Behind the fern, between the ferns.
So Tyson, when did you join? About a month ago?
About a month ago, yeah.
All right. You want to share a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So I've got a background in e-commerce as well as product. And I'm super excited. Most recently, I've been working with stream processing and data processing in my most recent position. Before Reaction Commerce, I was processing point of sale transactions in real time and using that for marketing and analytics purposes.
Yeah.
Lots of records.
Lots of records. So I'm excited to bring that experience to Reaction Commerce.
Right. What in your first month has sort of surprised you the most? No pressure.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I'm excited to see the community. There's just a strong community around reaction commerce, and I think that's one of the most exciting things that I've seen, and looking forward to carrying the product forward.
Great. So Tyson is local. He's based here in Los Angeles. In fact, he regularly rides his skateboard to the office or to the bus stop, and then to the bus to the office, which is pretty rare for LA. So welcome to the team.
A little more common on the west side.
Yeah. Tyson can be reached via all of our usual channels. If you're just interested in learning more about what a lead architect does, or just want to learn about what it's like to work at Reaction Commerce, you can chat with Tyson or any one of us.
Stay, because we're going to talk a little bit about the roadmap, and you're part of that. So,
you thought that was it. So Tyson's going to stay up here. We'll keep moving on. Again, if you're interested in joining the team, we're distributed friendly. We refer to ourselves as a distributed first company, meaning we hire remote distributed teammates. We've got teammates all over the world. In fact, we've reached the tipping point where more than half of the team is now not here in Los Angeles, in Santa Monica. And we always love to hire from the community. So if you're out there interested in getting to work on Reaction Commerce for your day job, even more so than you already are, definitely hit us up. Okay, these are the ways to get involved. We welcome contributions. You can definitely hit us up in our Gitter channel, via our forums, via these regular live stream meetups. We've got regular community calls. The link in there is for the agenda for the community calls. If you're an agency or a dev shop and you're working with clients and want to learn more about becoming a partner, we welcome agency partners. So there's lots of ways to start working with us, and we'd love to connect to learn more about what you're working on. T-shirts, the most important thing. Anyone who's on this call is invited to have a free Reaction Commerce T-shirt and notepad. That's the URL. Please share your address, T-shirt size, and we will get you T-shirts and notepads and stickers and whatnot.
Actual paper notepads, not the kind you plug in, like not a notebook.
True. The old school.
We're not like Google.
Okay, so that's it from kind of the overview. We're going to jump into performance, and we've got a video lined up that we're going to share, and then we're happy to take any questions related to performance or any other topic. So we'll switch over to the video right now.
One of the most common questions I get is, why is reaction? Or some more polite variation of that question. So why is reaction so slow? Well, first let's talk a little bit about what we mean when we say slow, because not everybody is talking about the same thing, the same symptoms, the same causes. Probably the first thing the developer is going to experience is that the time to rebuild can be anywhere from 5 to 30 seconds. When iterating on a small front-end tweak, as we start now, it can be a real productivity killer.
Audio is really low.
The next thing you may notice is that when you first load the app.
Hey everyone, we're having some audio issues. Thanks for the reports. We're going to restart it and see if we can get it to be a little bit louder. So hold on a second. Always happens, no matter what, live stream.
We could play it and stick the mic in front of the speaker if all else fails.
You're now sharing it. You can't play it?
All right.
Okay.
We'll jury-rig this. Turn your mic volume up.
It's been part of my day every day, answering questions for who are getting started reaction. And one of the most common questions I get is, why is reaction so slow? Or some more polite variation of that question. So why is reaction so slow? Well, first let's talk a little bit about what we mean when we say slow, because not everybody is talking about the same thing, the same symptoms or the same causes. Probably the first thing the developer is going to experience is that the time to rebuild can be anywhere from 5 to 30 seconds. When iterating on a small front-end tweak, this restart time can be a real productivity killer. The next thing you may notice is that on first load of the application, there can be a delay of anywhere from 4 to 5 or even up to 10 seconds while the application is delivered to the client, which could be even worse on a low bandwidth connection. We call this the white screen of death, or more technically, time to first paint, meaning it's a time before the user begins to see the actual website loading. And the last thing that we are aware of is at some points in the UI, it may appear to be sluggish and not as responsive as it should be. For example, some of the sliders could take 3 to 5 seconds to respond, and that's not right. Okay, but why though? Well, a lot of reasons, but many of them boil down to the same reasons. Reaction commerce is a large application. The time of the need them. This should reduce the overall file size, improving both dev build performance and time to first paint. Dynamic module loading, meaning your 1.5 added the ability to do dynamic imports, meaning you could do just-in-time importing of modules only when you need them. One of the biggest chunks of code that gets shipped to the client is to handle internationalization and time zones. This is great. We pride ourselves on our not handling translations and internationalizations as an afterthought, but not everybody needs this, as probably most shops will only operate in 1 or 2 regions. So since this code won't get used by a lot of people, Widow make this optional and configurable. Another big chunk of code is in our admin panel. Currently, all that code gets sent to all users, even if they never log in as an admin. This is a waste, since clearly the majority of your users to your website are not going to be an admin. Optimizing publications and reactivity. Although being a reactive real-time application is one of the core tenets behind Reaction, we're going to be taking a hard look at which parts of the application need to be dynamic, especially when operating as a consumer. Optimizing the data we ascribe to can possibly help us lower the initial load, especially when it comes to products and images. So that's the plan. Is that it? No. Starting at the end of January, we'll be unveiling Reaction Next, which will be the next generation of Reaction with a laser focus on performance and scalability. We will be releasing more details as we have them, so stay tuned to our social channels for more news.
Great.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, that was exciting. Nothing like live audio issues. Have you thought about moving to Apollo? There's a question. I'm just jumping in.
Yeah, is the next thing
I'm
somewhere
just
along here
throwing
is
in
the
there.
update.
Yeah. So we're happy.
So-
like we'll talk performance and also roadmap because they are tied to each
Yep.
other, and they'll kind of flow into each other. So any questions specific to performance, the video? Apologies for the issues. That video will be available after the fact via our YouTube channel. We'll share it out via all the social channels. But I see some questions coming in, and the one that just that I pulled was from Michael. Have we thought about moving to Apollo? So let's talk broadly about some of the performance topics.
Well, first, apologies. I can't read the questions because I lost my glasses. So you'll have to read them to me. But in relation to Apollo, we have looked at Apollo, and we've certainly considered it. GraphQL is certainly part of the changes that we're going to make for Reaction Next. However, Apollo itself might not be part of that stack, but certainly GraphQL will be.
Gabriel, I couldn't see all of the video, but are we considering adding server-side rendering?
Yeah. So our plan right now is to spend 2 sprints. We do 2-week sprints. So we're going to spend 2 sprints starting the 15th, where we are focused entirely on the easy wins of performance for the current version of Reaction. And that means that we'll work on the dynamic modules. We'll work on trying to make some next steps to move the packages into independent packages so that there'll be less packages that you'll be compiling locally, and moving some of those out to NPM. And a few other that are, I think the issue is 1633, which is our performance epic. And you can take a look at that. We're not going to do all of the items, but we are going to get, I think, significant high-level wins over the next 2 sprints that will put Reaction back to the performance level that we used to experience, at least for a while. Our longer-term goal after those performance sprints is that we're going to separate the client React components into their own component library and separate the consumer view out of the current admin, so that that's completely separated. And we're going to start looking at ways to use those components in different view layers and view tools. So we may be looking at Next.js, we may be looking at Gatsby, and we may just be looking at some pure Express React client front ends. And we're going to build some different examples of the client front end, which will be separated and connected to Reaction via GraphQL. So that's going to be a fairly big refactor. We'll be keeping all of the same components in place, but we're going to be moving things around. And that's eventually going to get us to server-side rendering, which will come default with something like Gatsby. And we're going to move that responsibility really to a separate layer, more to the client layer. And then we're also looking at increasing developer performance by making more use of Docker images locally and moving some of our services out to run as Docker images in the local installation. And that'll include some new architectural components that maybe, Tyson, you want to jump in and talk about how we're thinking about using the distributed message queuing. But a core part of the overall Reaction stability is about having transaction security and having a distributed kind of message system, which we really don't have right now. So talk about what we're thinking about doing here.
Yeah, I think part of the holistic approach in making Reaction faster is really looking at the various ways that it is slow. And part of that's the client, part of it is on the server side, and various services that may overwhelm other portions of the application. So we're looking at breaking the app apart and using messaging between the various components to communicate, so that one part of the app doesn't slow down the other parts of the app, the client doesn't slow down the server, things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's really also about, a lot of people ask about whether transactions, how transactions are handled, what happens if an order fails, and those kind of elements. And we have a pretty simplistic workflow that is in Reaction right now, which was pretty intentional. We put that in there sort of as a placeholder exactly for a system like this, which, the primary candidate and what we're doing a lot of experiments right now is with Kafka. Right. And I would say that 7 months ago, it probably wouldn't have been, the technology stack wouldn't have been ready for us, right?
Right. Things are moving super fast. And I think it's cool that if you look at Reaction and the ideas that are baked in and the ideas that, some of them originated with Meteor, were really ahead of their time in a way. And those ideas of real-time updates to the client are super cool. And now in the last, really recently, the technologies available to us to really enable that on a lower level have improved to the point where everything's viable now.
Right. Kafka is really interesting because it supports both a pub sub and a sort of a regular standard approach, right? So you could be real time or not, and make that decision when you want to. Versus Meteor, we're mostly real time all the time, and that's a performance issue. And then I think what we're looking at is connectors from Kafka, right, to GraphQL.
Right. What's cool about Kafka is we can use the real-time updating on the server side from one component to another. You don't have to carry that forward to the client. So you can enable real-time updates to the client, so we could use that in a way similar to DDP. But it doesn't have to be that way, so we can make our choices and really choose how we use it.
There's a question from the chat from Alan Braswell about whether we've considered Laravel/Vue.js for the distributed architecture that we're talking about. And
I have been looking at Vue as well, and I think our goal is to support a couple different layers with so try to work with Vue, try to work with Next, try to work with Gatsby, and really focus more on building a component library that can be reused. And I don't know when we'll get to each one of those, but we certainly want to build some example versions of that you can clone and take and run. So Vue is certainly one that we're looking at.
Yep. Alan's also asking if we're taking on any external projects like integrating Reaction into other platforms, or are we completely focused on Reaction development at this time? So maybe. In general, we are focused completely on Reaction development, and our philosophy has been to not stray from that. Where there's great alignment on an external project or an integration, we do have a community engineering team. We are happy to do some implementation support to take projects live. It just depends on whether it aligns with our roadmap, kind of what the timing is. So we're open to having conversations about that. And if it's not us that will be working on it, we certainly have a large community and now partners that we can point you to if you need help or you want some development resources. So my recommendation is get in touch, reach out to us. We'd love to learn more. And then it's either something we will start to work on or we'll figure out, or we'll point you in the direction of our community, of our partners.
Yeah, and I'd also say that Tyson and I, as well as other Reaction team members, will be spending the next month or so while we're working on the performance sprint. We're going to be documenting and laying down the really a highly detailed roadmap for development. And in there'll be opportunities for people to join us as contributors or partners, and also give us feedback on things that they might want to see us working on. So that, I don't know if that question was a specific, like, hey, will you guys go build a X? But if it's more of like a generic feature such as Elasticsearch and starting to bring some other services in, we definitely would value that and feedback in our proposals.
Daniel's asking performance-related questions about any work that we're going to do to make it easier to integrate with CDNs like CloudFront or Fastly. What are our thoughts there?
Yeah, so we have. I think we've reached the end of the road for Collection FS, and we've gotten to the point where we truly hate it, and over the next 2 weeks, in the very first performance sprint, we're focused on removing CFS from Reaction entirely and replacing it with a file system, default upload to the file system with a S3 CloudFront credential that will sync to S3. And we're just going to sort of simplify that. We'll keep the image resizing. We've got a new library that we can use there, and we'll just sort of speed that up, but not add new functionality. I think just start, just remove GridFS and CollectionFS and provide some kind of migration path to S3.
Yeah, and some of the first work that I did here on the team, I spent really working through some performance issues with Mongo, and we found that the GridFS collections were some of the hottest collections as we were doing imports and uploading images. So removing that from the database is definitely going to relieve a lot of pressure and speed the whole system up, and will work well with CDNs, et cetera, to make it faster on the client side.
Our goal was always to store it in the database and then sync that to S3 and then or to any other CDN and then serve from the CDN. That was always the goal, so that the images would have sort of a persistent place that wasn't a file system. However, what we've seen is Mongo, it's not so much the serving as much as it is loading and importing and everything else and breaking it up into chunks.
Especially during replication.
Yeah,
when through the Mongo replication process, it put a lot of strain on replication.
Because each image is being divvied up into like 50 chunks, and each of those are big chunks, and on and on. So not actually as Brent said, define what the performance problem is, not actually the performance problem that you think of serving as much as it is just maintenance.
So let's recap a little bit. So in the next 2 sprints, starting this coming Monday, the 22nd, are focused on kind of the low-hanging fruit, kind of some of the performance. Our sprints are roughly 2 weeks long. So pretty quickly, you're going to see some improvements with the existing Reaction Commerce code base. And that will be all the issues outlined in GitHub as usual. If you want more information, join our community call. But certainly by, let's say, mid-February, within the next 2 weeks, the first sprint, the next week, within 4 weeks, you're going to start to see some improvements. And then longer term, the stuff that we're talking about, we're going to map out in a bigger roadmap over the next few quarters. So it's a process that's going to take a while. We do have some near-term stuff that we're going to focus on that should alleviate some of the pain. But then some of the bigger work that they're talking about will be lined up over the coming, let's say, 2 quarters. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think I'd also add there that people probably heard us say we're going to focus on performance before. So I will add the reassurance that in most cases that was the intended next hot topic. However, you know how it is. There's projects that we're working on that didn't quite finish, and we've got to get them done. So we've finished. Everything else is out of the way, and literally the whole team is going to swing into action on performance, and it's really happening this time.
The sprint starts Monday. As always, we welcome feedback. We're going to really try to share a lot in terms of transparency about where we are, good, bad, and ugly now. And then what the performance improvements actually look like, quantifiable. So that's instrumentation we're putting in place. So we'd welcome help, feedback, anything of that nature. And
I want to make a note too that Tyson's not the only new team member. We welcome Aldeed to the team, Eric Dauberton to the team, and he will be joining the core engineering team and doing a lot of the performance work. And if anyone knows him, they know that he knows Meteor quite well. And he's already been working on migrating us to the NPM simple schema package versus the Meteor simple schema, which was one of the last pieces that we needed to get out of the way so that we could start moving to real NPM packages as well, so that they could use the schema in other packages and not be dependent on Meteor in any way. So that's a big win in the team. And then we also have a few other people, I think, that are joining or have joined. I won't say anything yet, but we have a few more engineers joining the team as well. So not only are we focused on performance, but we're bringing in people to the team that I think are really going to help us accelerate our progress.
Yeah. Michael's asking, what's the difference to the other simple schema? So talk a little bit more, what that is.
It should be it should be compatible, and that's part of what Eric was working through in all of our weird edge cases. We definitely, I think, pushed the simple schema to the limits. Simple schema, the version that we use now is in Meteor, and Eric ported that to an NPM package, I think last year, and it, in theory, should be used as a replacement for the Meteor package and can be used in any other kind of non-Meteor environment. And it's really a schema and a validator. So it provides the same functionality. In theory, it would have been a drop-in replacement, except for all of our crazy edge cases.
Yep. Here's a pretty specific question that came in, probably one of the first ones as we started the live stream. Maybe more of a bug, but we'll just give it a shot. I'd like to ask why we get an error code while starting reaction if we had created a folder in the imports custom folder. How can we put custom imports into the folder properly? So it's a pretty specific issue, but maybe there's some broad conversation.
It's a specific issue, but it's not specific enough.
Right.
I need to see the error code.
We probably need more information. We need the error code. I had the feeling that was it. But you've been patient, anonymous attendee, and wanted to give it a shot here on the live stream. If you can give us more details, share the actual error code in Gitter, or open up a GitHub issue, we'll be sure to look at that and try to get you unstuck. Great. Any other questions related to performance or any other kind of roadmap items we want to talk about?
You know, I think this is the big sort of carrot right now. You know, this is like everybody hears that we're talking about this, and and we're making action. But I think that we're going to have another reaction action in a month, and hopefully there we present a much more detailed roadmap for everybody and really talk through the changes. We're definitely making a lot of changes. We're doing a lot of experiments, and we're trying to find the best solutions. And we really want to have the patterns of development going forth and the process going forward to be well documented before we begin, so that everybody can be engaged on that. So next reaction action, I would say, tune in for sure.
Yep, and also the community calls and
Yep.
other channels for sure. Are there any, outside of performance, which obviously we've said, you know, we're shifting pretty much the entire team over to performance the next couple sprints, kind of thinking about, you know, the year ahead, are there any features? We've certainly talked, let's say, about bulk product management, kind of any other features you're excited about or kind of want to talk about just broadly. And again, this is roadmap items that we'll be sharing as we go along like we normally do.
The bulk product management is still a feature that I think we're going to try to work towards regardless of the rest of the work that we're doing. It's the one feature that we said was a table stakes item that must be in reaction before we sort of stabilize that version and move on to the next. And that and the media gallery kind of are the two things that we've said okay to. The bulk product management may take a little bit for us to fully implement the vision, but there's some good tickets on that, issues on that, describing the details. There's a bunch of UI work that's been done, and we're pretty much ready to start working on that. That may end up being a community led, engineering team led operation rather than a core focus while we work on performance, though.
Yep. Great. We've got no other questions. Don't be shy if there's any questions that you want answered. We're here to answer any Q&A. Any other, how about the Meteor core development group and the confidence? So it's a Meteor question. You know, what's our confidence about the future of the direction of Meteor, and our thoughts generally comes up on every reaction action. Yeah. What about Meteor?
And I always do my best to be politically correct here. I see a place in our roadmap and our future for Meteor, but I don't think it'll be the prominent position it is right now in our overall architecture. I think one of the things that we're trying to decide is if there's a legitimate place for a real-time admin tool, and do we keep the admin functionality as it is in Meteor, and will that be performant well enough to give a great operator experience if we separate the client and the admin tools into two distinct things, where the client is running on, say, Gatsby and can do is natively server-side rendered and is a nice, clean and fast client UI. The admin tool has a little bit more functionality and is a little bit more of a custom tooling. That's the way I sort of see this going, and Meteor started moving to being our admin tooling. But I'm going to be honest, as we get through building that client separation, and if it goes extremely well and we're like, wow, that was a piece of cake, then I wouldn't be surprised if we said, okay, let's just move the admin tooling over as well. The distinction here is that most of our admin tooling is the stuff that's still left in Blaze. And all of our, most, I would say 98%, if not all of our client stuff has already been moved to React. So just from a efficiency standpoint, it makes sense for us to take all those React components and make them work in other UI front-end frameworks, and maybe just continue a classic Blaze development for the admin tool even.
So this is a great transition to the two questions that came in around the state of our migration from Blaze to React. When will Blaze completely be replaced, which I know comes up regularly as a question.
Yeah. So I think when we separate out that client layer, that'll be a complete no Blaze, pure React. And then, and like I said, that's probably 98% there already. I think we need to just look at the admin tool and decide which one's faster, which one's more efficient from where the code base is right now. And if we say we just don't want to keep Blaze at all, then I'm likely to say we don't want to keep Meteor either. I hate to say this, but I think one of the great advantages of Meteor was Blaze. And after the sort of technical evolution of React and GraphQL, Meteor recognized that and moved to the Apollo stack efforts. I think, and separated Blaze out as a separate thing. I think at this point, without Blaze and without the need for DDP, you don't need Meteor. Mm-hmm. And that's sad because I actually really liked Blaze, but I'm one of the incompetent developers that like HTML and just slap some stuff in there and see the result. React is a little bit of a different beast.
You've got Gregory agreeing with you.
But that's what I say. It might be good to keep that for the admin tool, because it'll be really easy for anybody to just go use some HTML templating to add functionality to the admin tool, where you're not worrying about composition so much, and you're not worrying about a lot of other rendering issues. So maybe that's a path we take, but we really have to see once we've ripped out the client what's left.
Yeah. But what we're ahead is we're really looking at GraphQL as the API for the backend data. And as we're looking at things like real-time subscriptions through GraphQL, GraphQL subscriptions. So as we implement that, the need for Meteor will probably diminish.
Yep.
So there's a question, if we do move away from Meteor, does it mean that plugins using it will break? So what's that look like, or could it look like?
Well, that's part of, I think that's going to be answered as part of our service architecture. And what we would like to be able to start doing is separating things out into independent services. So for instance, the orders or inventory may run as a separate service, and that includes the UI components of that. So you'll be able to run sort of Meteor instances within our environment, regardless of whether Reaction admin is right. A Meteor instance. And I do think it is our intent to try to provide upgrade paths no matter what. Meteor to non-Meteor, or Mongo to Kafka with some other kind of databases on the back end. Whatever the paths that we choose, we're definitely exploring how to make sure that that remains compatible, or at least has an easier upgrade path.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Daniel's pointing out the concerns might be around Meteor methods, et cetera.
Yep.
Reaction should be able to provide an easy migration to handle these concerns, and that's exactly right.
Yep. And we've looked at Meteor methods. So Meteor method being really, this is where everybody that's super attention to detail is going to matter. But I think of Meteor methods more as an RPC call that is returning a JSON object. And so I think it'd be pretty easy to encapsulate those and add other authentication, other transports.
Swap out that call.
Yeah,
right.
I think that would be really easy. We've for a long time wanted to call them reaction methods, just so that we had a way to say, okay, at some point in time, this is not going to be a Meteor method, and we've always thought that. But the core things that we would need to worry about is really, Meteor methods and authentication, user authentication, and a replacement for the DDP pub sub model, which we have pretty clear ideas on that already.
Could it not be the case that migration from DDP to Apollo is a lateral move? That's from Gregory.
Yeah, and that's certainly, so you can certainly keep Meteor exactly like it is and start implementing Apollo in there. And like I said, we may take a deeper dive into whether Apollo is a better solution than some just plain GraphQL. But you don't need Apollo to really migrate to GraphQL at all. But I do think it does help ease the transition. So it may be that we end up using Apollo specifically for the admin stack, just so that we can keep that upgrade path. And by the way, I anticipate that you could still run Reaction as a single shop using the code base. It's just that I think that what the Meteor version of Reaction becomes more about admin dashboarding and UI visibility into the data, rather than it is about the client layer. So if you separate out that client layer, that can use pure GraphQL, and we can have Apollo down in the admin side if we're trying to retain that tool.
Great. So I think we're out of questions, so we'll go ahead and wrap up. As we said, performance is the next big topic for us and focus. The sprint starts Monday, this coming Monday, the 22nd. I've got a couple sprints lined up where you should start to see some immediate improvements. We'll be sharing more details around these architecture and kind of product changes in our next reaction action and over probably the next couple reaction actions, and via all our usual channels. Apologies about the video earlier. We will get that uploaded and distribute out via all of our usual channels. And again, we're hiring, and if you have any other follow-up questions, you can reach us via Gitter and any other of our channels. So thank you everyone again for joining us, and we'll see you in Gitter. Great.